The theme for this program focuses on the need for reinvention. Constant reinvention refers to the experience of constantly needing to change your organization and yourself in order to cope with or keep up with, even to anticipate, the constant flow of changes that we experience in our personal and professional environments. This constant confronting of change has led to many strategies to react, such as frequent reorganizing, resizing by downsizing, or even in the other direction, rapid growth, rapidly and frequently developing and implementing new strategies and new products, and searching for new talent and new markets on a global basis. The need to change can appear suddenly, and it usually does, often taking us by surprise. Both the change we have to react to, as well as the change we create when we have to implement it in our organizations. And sometimes it can hurt. Count yourself lucky if you see it coming. As Andy Grove of Intel has said, we have to learn to let chaos reign because we can't control it. But then he says we need to learn how to rein in the chaos. So, first, let chaos reign. Then, rein in the chaos. That is basically what this program today is about. It all may seem obvious, yet surveys of global CEOs show that 86% feel things are more uncertain now than ever before. And even so, 90% feel unprepared to deal with it. You can get slammed by what seems like a sudden market downturn, a new competitor that appears out of nowhere, advances in technology, new products, completely new realignment of your industry, new employee attitudes and behavior, such as is manifested today through their social networking with anybody and everybody. And they social network about themselves and their work, or changing customer expectations, to say nothing of events like the Arab Spring, the Japanese tsunami, and the bird flu. Wouldn't it be great to be able to turn the power of these forces to your advantage? Such an ability can only come from a thorough understanding of the nature and function of these sources of these forces. In other ITC programs, I've spoken a number of times about how absolutely crazy and chaotic the world has become. I often say, it seems as though everything has changed, that nothing is the same as we are used to, and nothing we know seems to help us figure out what is happening. We are constantly experiencing things we don't understand. There's a constant stream of new products and technologies that we don't know how to use and that come from places we don't know and have never been. People around the world, and sometimes in our own neighborhoods, do things we don't understand and we can't figure out why they do what they do. And all the rules and principles we were taught growing up no longer seem to apply or to help us understand what is happening or help us solve today's problems, which all seem so big and complex that we often feel that maybe they can't be solved. So in this module, I would like to first provide a short summary of the forces in our personal and work environments that have made our situations feel so crazy. Even though I will describe each of these forces as independent issues, it's clear to me, and I hope to you, that these forces are all related to each other, impacting each of the other forces and making them all even more important and complex. Dealing with any one of these forces requires that you also have to deal with one or more of the others. I've boiled these forces for change down to 6 forces, all new in human experience. So the first area I want to address is globalization. I define this as the constantly increasing number of countries, companies, and people that are increasingly connected with each other and with us, and because of that make it necessary for us to understand, that is, get to know and deal with them. As the Boston Consulting Group says, we are all now competing with everyone, from everywhere, for everything. We are all aware of the powerful impact of multinationals from the developed world. But the world economy is now changing. Firms from emerging markets are now entering the global economy, challenging large firms from the developed countries with lower prices and innovative new products and services. People in poor, developing countries are increasingly seeking efficient solutions to their own daily problems and are developing abilities to match products to their local environments and to create products quickly to serve their local needs. And then they discover that those products or services can be adapted to needs in the rich developed world as well. This is new. Creativity is now happening all over the world, not just in the developed world, but also in emerging markets. Examples of large firms from what are called the BRIC countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, that now outcompete their counterparts in the developed world include firms such as Tata Motors in India, which produces a high-quality automobile for $2,500, Good Baby in China, which makes about 1,600 baby products, such as strollers and carrying slings, matched to the needs of markets all over the world. And it creates one new product every 12 hours. And Embraer in Brazil, which produces the world's best regional jets. Of course, there are hundreds of small entrepreneurial firms in the developing world that are creating innovative ways to deal with problems of the poor that are now being adapted to usage in the developed world. And firms from the developed world, both traditional multinationals and new small entrepreneurial firms, which may be virtual or online and with incredible new ideas that are going global in increasing numbers as well. Indeed, if you have a website describing your product or service, today you are global. Going global is no longer a choice. It is a requirement for survival. Think about how globalization affects you. Your favorite restaurants could be Mexican, Chinese, Thai, or French. Your favorite music comes from Brazil, or Africa, or the UK. The colleagues you interact with every day are located in Australia, China, India, and or Germany. Your kids' favorite playmates are from Eritrea, Mexico, India, Texas. For many, that's a foreign country. Pakistan or Italy. Your best customers are in Asia and Latin America. Your clothes are made in just about every developing country in the world. Or if you are willing to spend enough, maybe in one or more rich developed countries as well. Recent immigrants from North Africa, Latin America, or India have moved into your neighborhood in recent years. At work, you've hired a number of people from the Philippines and Europe, and your employer is currently negotiating to acquire a firm from the UK that itself has operations in 6 additional countries. New technologies drawing on research and talent from around the world, such as nanotechnologies, 3-dimensional printing, continuous and collaborative manufacturing, cloud sourcing, big data use, such as in Nike's new body sensors, constantly expanding capabilities of cell phones for everything from providing medical services to banking to retail comparisons to services to the poor, are changing the lives of us all. And to a large degree, this is all being made possible because of the global revolutions being experienced in the next force for change that I will describe. The second powerful force for change comes from the technological and communication revolutions. It would take hours to go over the size and importance of this force for change. I mentioned a number of current examples in the prior section on globalization. I could keep expanding this list with products like cell phones, global positioning satellites, or nanotechnology as used or being planned in many areas. We buy products made all over the world. We sell products to people all over the world. We communicate with colleagues all over the world. We travel all over the world. Or in my opinion, at least we can and should. We send information to people all over the world and receive knowledge and ideas back from people all over the world. What is happening in terms of technology and communication capabilities is revolutionary, meaning totally new, and happening in every type of technology that is tracked and in every corner of the planet. More new knowledge is being created every few years than was created in all of prior human history. This is indeed revolutionary. The third force for change that I think is also revolutionary and new in human history is what is happening in terms of global demographics. The world's population and the populations of individual countries are forcing new challenges on the planet that are affecting us all. The seemingly unexpected and unexplained consequences of aging populations, combined with the need to accommodate the interests of an increasingly diverse and in many countries very young populations, are creating problems for the governments and economies in pretty much every country. One significant component of this force has to do with the changing age profiles in most, if not all, countries. In most developed countries, and quickly approaching as a problem in many developing countries, there is an age profile of their populations with at least 50% over the age of 50. Such an age profile has never existed before. And in significant contrast to this is the reality of an age profile in the populations in many developing countries with at least 50% under age 30. Obviously, these demographic realities create very different problems and challenges for the countries involved, as well as for their neighbors and other countries as well. The fourth source of change and chaos in the New World comes from the new sources of wealth. Throughout history, individuals and countries became rich by controlling resources such as forests, the wood in the forests, gold, steel, oil, and land. But a quick look at the current lists of the wealthiest people in the world, and the firms with the highest stock market values and the most successful countries, shows that the new, largest source of wealth today comes from control of human capital, or what is referred to as intangible resources. That is, for example, intellectual and social property, things that don't automatically show up on the assets of the firm's balance sheet. Individual people's value lies in what they know. The value of firms lies in what they know. And the value of countries lies in what they know. So those who know the most, or know the most important information, and know how to apply and use that information, enjoy the highest value. The result, thus, lies in the importance of human capital and intellectual property. Wealth now comes to individuals, organizations, and countries from intangible sources. Things like innovation, creativity, collaboration, entrepreneurship, patents, and copyrights. The fifth force for change and resulting chaos comes from the ideological conflict between people who believe strongly in the correctness of small government and all that entails, versus those who swear by the value of big government and all that entails. All over the world, for many years, there has been and continues to be an ideological political war between people who believe that smaller government is better, thus pushing for deregulation and privatization and free markets, and people who just as strongly believe that governments have a critical and important role to play in providing rules and regulations, support of the economy when necessary, and protections for citizens who need assistance. The result is often deadlocked government and frequent changes in governance. In addition, there seem to be increasing numbers of powerful financial, political, and religious conflicts with seemingly less and less tolerance for differences of opinion, coupled with less and less agreement over how to resolve or accommodate differences of values, behaviors, and opinions. All of these conflicts are enhanced and facilitated because of global connectedness and modern communication and technological capabilities. Both of these situations result in dysfunctional governments and unpredictable behaviors of governments and even of citizens at all levels, and seemingly increasing reliance on violence to get your way. Business Week has even suggested that government no longer matters. None of the various approaches taken over the last few years to deal with the financial crisis, for example, particularly in the developed world, seem to have made any difference. It is suggested by some economists and by political scientists that no matter what any particular country does, it doesn't have any impact on the global economy. And maybe they have little impact on differences of opinion and intolerance as well. The sixth and last force contributing to our sense of uncertainty I refer to as global surprises. There seem to be a growing number of global surprises, at least partially due to the powers and situations that arise due to the prior five forces discussed, although not entirely caused by them. I define global surprises as events that occur that are unpredicted, and because of that catch everyone by surprise and change everything on a global scale. Examples of such events include the fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, that is 11/9, 1991, the attack in New York City on the World Trade Center buildings on September 11th, that is 9/11, 2001, the occurrence of global diseases such as AIDS, bird flu, SARS, and swine flu, the Southeast Asian and Japanese earthquakes and resulting tsunamis, the growing impacts of global warming, the related unexpected rapid melting of glaciers, which are the sole source of water for a number of large cities, and which is adding to a rising ocean, the opening of a large hole in the ozone, the Arab Spring, and the global financial crisis. It seems as though global surprises are becoming more frequent, and such an impression is probably accurate given the increased connectivity of peoples, cultures, and countries, and the global communication that puts such events on everyone's televisions, laptops, and cell phones. The result of these six forces is rising expectations for a better world, since everyone now knows what is going on and what is possible to deal with what is going on, coupled with increasing feelings of constant chaos and a sense that I can't cope. Thus, we all feel the need to constantly reinvent ourselves and our organizations, and to synchronize the changes and reinventions throughout the components of our lives and organizations. Though some people may want to hide in a cave and stay away from this crazy world, such a lifestyle is no longer possible. So, cope we must. And so in another module, I will focus on ideas for coping. Coping is not impossible. Many people are identifying ways that enable people and organizations to deal with the craziness and chaos of today's world. So I invite you to join me again and get some help for just such coping.
Thank you for your presentation. Now, let's go to Module 2 of our program.